Thanks for staying up later. Our guest tonight is England's Julian Temple, and it might be fair to say that he stands alone in terms of directing and conceiving quality rock videos. It's a fairly new form, and most of it, or at least much of it, that you see on MTV is not of the highest quality. Would you agree to that? As an overall form, it's kind of lacking?
Yeah, I think 90% is unwatchable, but I think that's true of most things, most television, you know, or most movies, actually. You know, the best music videos, I think, are as good as anything else out there. That they really, the powerful thing is that they exist to push the form of seeing things further forward. And that doesn't really exist as the reason of being for other mediums. You know, it is there as an experimental laboratory, visually, and has had an incredible impact on commercials, on movies, on a whole generation of kids who see 3 times as quick as their parents and probably 6 times as quick as their grandparents. And a lot of middle-aged film critics don't like that, but it's a reality that people are bombarded as they grow up with so many images today that they are very, very visually literate. And with videos, you can play with this new space that's opened up. You know, people are running a visual mile in like 0.0 of a second, whereas they used to take 4 minutes to do it, you know.
Before expanding on that, I should probably rattle off at least a short list of the people Julian Temple has worked with, and it's nothing if not eclectic. Neil Young on the one hand, Kenny Rogers on the other, Sid Vicious, Whitney Houston,
Right.
Mick Jagger, Janet Jackson. There seems to be no rhyme or reason, except apparently you find something in the work of all of them that you feel you can amplify in some way.
Yeah, I think that, you know, that if someone is reaching millions of brains, there's something powerful about what gets them there, whether it's the record company or the myth machine behind them, or the person or that person's talent. And all those things are interesting to me. And, you know, I think that you can work with someone and not be a shoeshine boy and not just be a sycophant and a flatterer. You can play with their legend and their place in the media circus. So for me, you know, Kenny Rogers is another cartoon character, and Sid Vicious is another one. You know, that they do inhabit the same media landscape that rules more and more people's lives, and I take pop culture very seriously and feel very honored to work with it. I don't think it's you know, it is a throwaway thing. It is a thing that it's like your breath. You breathe it in and you breathe it out, but it's that important. You live in it, and it's the world we live in. We don't live in Ibsen's 19th century anymore, and all these people are important. So
a common thread for sure is that there's some element of irreverence in all of them. And in most of them, the performers appear to be looking at themselves and laughing.
Yeah, I mean, I try to work with people who have a sense of humor about themselves. You know, I think most human beings do have that, and I find that, in a way, some of the older stars, you know, the people like David Bowie, who's been around, or Mick Jagger or the Stones, you know, are willing to view their legend because they live with it every day. You know, it becomes something that they kick around like a dog. You know, it's the kids who have been famous for a year who wake up in the middle of the night worrying about whether they're going to be famous next year that are kind of less easy to work with. But the guys who've been around for a while do see themselves in the context of what they've done, and you're able to work with the meaning and the essence of that artist in a freer way than someone who's paranoid about where he's going to be around tomorrow. You know.
Let's just arbitrarily run through a list of some of the more memorable videos you've directed. There was Undercover with the Rolling Stones, where the secret police in San Salvador come and take them away from the Holiday Inn.
Right.
And some ghastly things unfold.
Yeah, mainly between Mick and Keith, which, you know, was going on at that time to an extent. I was trying to dramatize those two characters who are the two faces of the Rolling Stones. But at that time, I mean, there has always been a pressure, and it's still there, that music videos are supposed to be made for 5-year-old kids, you know, and Undercover was an attempt to make a film, a little clip about a song that talked about the real world, and you know, to break away from the teddy bear, you know, let's film the haircut attitude to videos.
Jagger winds up witnessing his own execution.
Well, there's, you know, there are references to a lot of things in there. I mean, he sings in one of his songs about suiciding on the stage, and I was playing with the way that people watch MTV on that video. I don't know if you remember, but there are two kids changing the channel.
Yeah.
They fight over the channel, and one is watching just a straight performance of the Stones, and the other is somehow tuned into this channel where they're illustrating the song in a different way.
You work with the Rolling Stones, you work with the Kinks.
Kinks, I love the Kinks. Partly because I'm English, and there's a great legacy of music hall and older things in the Kinks than rock and roll. There's a whole Victorian blue joke comedian aspect to the Kinks. They have a really long-term perspective on England, amongst other things. And surprisingly, you know, when they did things like You Really Got Me, that was the birth of heavy metal in many ways. But they have this double-edged thing of being really a rock and roll band, and somehow historians of England. You know, I love that.
And yet Come Dancing, which you did the video for, is one of their sweeter songs.
Yeah.
It doesn't have as much of an edge.
Well, it's always bittersweet with Ray. You know, he's never simple. You know, there's a lot of sadness in that song, and there's a sense of loss in that song, as well as a parody of, you know, there's a humor about that whole ballroom dancing trip, you know, the Arthur Murray thing. But there's a nostalgia for it as well, which is what's great about him.
However dismayed somebody might be about the general quality of music videos, to a fair person, there's no denying that whatever tiny percentage of them are of high quality, that percentage qualifies as really like a short film. It's not just, shouldn't just be categorized as a music video. It's a short film, which has as much legitimacy on its own terms as what we'd think of as a regular movie, I guess.
Oh, I mean, I think every other month there is a music video that comes along that jolts the whole medium of visual imagery further forward, and you know, I'm proud to be involved in that. I love baiting these middle-aged critics who put down music videos as some second-rate thing to do, because I don't think they understand the world they're living in. I think they're living, you know, and these are the same people who cheered Jean-Luc Godard when he did a jump cut in 1960 or whatever, and, you know, appalled the middle-aged critics at that time by doing it. These are the same people who now refuse to see that film language is sped up and become more abstract and more sophisticated in the eyes of a mass audience, which is a real liberation. It's not just cinema buffs in New York going to see Godard films in the early 60s. It's kids right across the world who are visually very, very sophisticated. And that, to me, is a new playground for filmmakers, something that we should embrace and explore and push. And to me, the whole point of doing a movie is to do something that's never been done before. Those are the best movies. And the reason I love to work in this format is that it's a laboratory to try new things and explore and do things that haven't been done, you know.
We're back now with Julian Temple. Of all the videos that I've seen that you directed, my favorite one is This Note's for You, which is a perfect vehicle for Neil Young in every way.
Well, you know, Neil is, I think, one of the few people from the 60s who's not atrophied. You know, he still, I think, has the same openness, the same rebel heart that he always had. And so to work with Neil and to be able to weave that fine line between, I mean, what we were doing was going for the wallet. You know, if it's sex and drugs, that's one thing, but this was, and to me, there's no point in shocking just for the sake of shocking and being banned just because it's something Madonna can do. I think you can do it in a way that makes people think, and then it's valuable. And with Neil Young, we were, you know, it was a wonderful song about selling the soul of the music. And, you know, I would like to make videos that defend the soul of the music.
I guess to take the other side, one could fairly say that if they see Ray Charles singing for Diet Pepsi, there's still an element of tremendous talent in the way he does that, even if he's applying it toward a less worthy goal. And then if you hear him sing Georgia, or you hear him sing What I Say or whatever, your appreciation of that isn't necessarily compromised. You just look at it as two different things. He's still Ray Charles, he's still a great artist.
Yeah, I just think there's something, if you write a great song that millions of people love that song, and you change the name of from Love to Pepsi, and you're just taking a song that has meant a lot of other different things and sell that out for a little bit of money, that in some way you're insulting the people who felt that song and gave you the energy to write more songs by liking that song. I think if people score a commercial or whatever they do, and I've got nothing against commercials, I just think, you know, there is a reflection that the music can't stand on its own anymore. It needs to be subsidized when it goes out on tour, because people aren't that interested anymore in the music. If they were interested, you wouldn't need beer companies to subsidize it.
Planet Texas by Kenny Rogers is one of the very best videos I've ever seen. I don't mean to, I hope I don't seem like I'm trying to flatter you. It's a considered judgment. It's a little 5-minute fairy tale.
Well, you know, it's funny for me because I knew nothing about Texas. And, you know, Dee Dee, my assistant, taught me all this stuff about Texas that I then kind of transmuted into this little paean, you know, homage to Texas. I thought of it like The Little Prince, you know, it's like making a planet out of Texas and creating... I love the idea that, you know, these space, you know, he'd had too many Jack Daniels that night and these cowboys came from outer space. There's something about that song that had the innocence of a kind of surreal fairy tale, you know, like The Little Prince.
The most frequently heard criticism of music videos in general, which is, even if they're skillfully done, even if they make an emotional connection in and of themselves, they seem to offer a single way of viewing that record, as opposed to driving down the road in 1965 and you hear the Righteous Brothers and you remember who you were with and what you were thinking and everything else that surrounded that, and you make up your own reality to accompany it. Here, it's almost being force-fed to you. Is that valid?
I think that is very valid. I think, you know, music video was invented as a kind of life support system for a music that was dying, basically, and the Sex Pistols, who I worked with early on, were saying that very strongly, I think. But you know, in a way, it brought the patient back to life, but it does vegetabilize the patient. It does destroy the ambiguity. The great thing about a great rock and roll song or any popular song is the resonances of different people listening to it. You know, someone's in the bath, someone's in the car, as you say, it means a different thing. And I think the secret, in a way, to good videos is to understand that they are going to be seen a lot of times. There's a repeatability factor in them, which has also changed the way people see things forever. You know, when our parents or grandparents saw a movie, it was something that spooled through a projector and that was it. Now we know we can stop a movie, watch it again, rent it again, rewind it, fast forward it, freeze it. You have a lot more control over a moving image than you ever did before. And video, in a sense, music video, in a sense, was at the vanguard of that, because it was a form that was created to be seen 20 times a week or 20 times a day. And the secret of the best ones of them are that they try and capture that same ambiguity that a great song has, that, you know, it's like a cold capsule. You take it and you get something from it immediately, and over a period of time it releases a little more. It's like a riddle, you know, that you go round and round and you enjoy trying to solve, and finally you may get the answer.
Isn't another potential drawback that with this emphasis on video, popular music becomes even more than it used to be, about fashion more so than about music. It was always about fashion to an extent, but there's also a legitimate distinction between fashion and style, and fashion is never something you want to value over the merit of the music itself, and it seems like there are a lot of popular artists today whose primary appeal is what they do on video rather than the merit of the record standing alone.
Yeah, I think that's true, that you know, it's videogenic kind of teddy bear acts have got a lot of exposure that they wouldn't have got before video. But again, you know, my real point is that you should work in the belly of that beast. That's what's happening, and that you can make videos that are aware of that medium and that reach the audience that need to be reached. It's not people like you and me who say, well, we're looking at this and it is a terrible thing. It's the people who are growing up bombarded and taught to think that way, that if you work in that medium, you can use the language that is the language of today, rather than wishing it was a 19th century narrative novel language. So there is a powerful thing about videos that, one, allows you to experiment and push the medium, but two, is still in sync with a very, very large audience, which is a powerful combination.
Accommodations furnished by the Universal City Hilton and Towers. Make your next stay in Los Angeles a memorable one with our spacious rooms, international cuisine, and the attention of a friendly, experienced staff.
Our time has run out. Our thanks to Julian Temple and to you for watching. See you next time. And until then, see you later.